Let's just skip ahead to something that Lise added uh into the topics. And this is Transhausen by proxy mommies threatening me with a good time. But at the same time, I'm sad because at the end of the day, they're still going to do horrible, irreversible damage to their children. I'm happy that I don't have to pay for it. I'm happy that this won't happen to uh, children inside of Alberta, but the Transhousing by proxy mommies are going to uproot their children and take them to provinces that don't value children as much as we do.
Yes, and this is problematic. So these are mothers of trans children in Alberta who are threatening to move out of Alberta because their children cannot access puberty blockers or wrong sex hormones or surgically mutilate themselves. And this is the problem where other jurisdictions, aka Saskatchewan and British Columbia, are going to absorb a great many of these families who are dedicated to destroying their own children. Okay, this is tantamount to child abuse. It should be recognized as such. But I can tell you that the people of Saskatchewan do not want to absorb a whole demographic of children who are demanding their own medical mutilation. We don't want to have to pay for their healthcare. We don't want to have to pay for their social services, and we don't want to have to pay for their continued education down the gender craziness pipeline that is alive and well in Saskatchewan schools. If you were from Alberta, Sheila Gunn Reid, and all of a sudden all of these treatments were made redundant because of Danielle Smith's smart move, would you go to BC, who has an oppressive housing situation where you can't get housing,
right,
where there's a cost of living, an absolute crazy cost
and
of
lower
living
rate,
crisis?
yeah, and lower cost of housing, lower cost of living, and lower surgical wait times in
Right.
Saskatchewan.
Or would you come to Saskatchewan?
Yeah,
Saskatchewan Health needs to get a handle on this
they need to get ahead of this.
oh, so that our already stressed healthcare system and education system isn't absorbing all of these super, super complicated, high needs, expensive, like ridiculously expensive families from Alberta. We don't want to be the sanctuary state where
Right.
these people are moving to. Like, absolutely not. We know that this is destroying children. We know that this is a fallacy and a lie, that there is no such thing as a trans kid, no matter what they say. Oh, well, when children tell you who they are, believe them. Well, if your child wanted to cut off their own foot, would you believe them? Would you affirm that they should be footless pirates? Of course not. This is craziness, and it's being imported into other provinces now. Do something, you guys. Do
Right.
something.
Oh, by the way, it's the usual suspects challenging the law in Alberta with your money, everybody at home. EGAL and Skipping Stone. EGAL is a busybody,
Federally
funded up the wazoo.
legal NGO.
Yeah,
They're paid by the federal government to challenge provincial governments on this issue. It is
right.
the craziest misuse of taxpayer funds that you could ever fathom.
Yeah, and it's how the federal government gets around jurisdiction on these issues because
That's
this
right.
is a provincial jurisdiction. So how do they impede provincial jurisdiction, meddle in our lives? They fund activists to do it on their behalf, and then they say, "What? We left them alone." Well, yeah, but you paid a gal to do it.
That's right. EGAL and You Are Pride in Saskatchewan against
Yeah.
parental rights laws.
Can we just stop and talk for a minute about the family in this?
Yeah.
Because they can, and I don't want to get too much into this, but the or I guess how this is framed. Because these people say, oh, we have to deconstruct the gender binary. But then they tell you that if your girl doesn't like girl things and if she likes boy things, then she must be a boy. Well, then have I got news for you about my 19-year-old who is, in my mother's opinion, in my mother's eyes, absolutely stunning, feminine, cute as all get out, but strong as heck, loves boy things, shoots,
Mhm.
fixes cars in the garage. Like if there's something wrong with her car, she just goes in the garage and fixes it. Last night, her and her boyfriend were working on cars in the driveway.
Isn't that
Um,
delish?
and she is in a contact sport. She's on a scholarship at university in a contact sport. But if
Mhm.
these ghouls got their hands on her, and if I wasn't the kind of mother that I am, without the religious framework in which we exist, they might have transed her on me instead of just saying she is just a darling little tomboy who is about as well-rounded as all get out. But in
Yeah.
here they say, football decals plaster the walls of his bedroom. Just
Yes.
realized they're talking about a little girl here. A
Yes.
San Francisco 49ers bedspread and a binder full of trading cards makes it clear the 7-year-old loves sports. Do you know how
7 years old.
7 years old?
This child hasn't lost all of its baby teeth yet, and yet we are affirming this delusion. Yet we are walking this child down this path. This is a child that has been lied to the point of delusion, absolute delusion.
My girls love contact sports. Well, the younger one doesn't. She doesn't like conflict. But when they were little, dirt bikes nonstop,
Sure.
shooting nonstop. I couldn't keep them clean. They were covered in mud, and their favorite colors were camouflage. And the older one has continued with her love of these things. She's an independent, self-sufficient, sport-loving girl
Mm-hmm.
who is a girl. And
Mm-hmm.
she's got a lovely little boyfriend, cute
You
as all get out. And these people would have transferred in a heartbeat because she didn't fall on their gender binary, which they say also is bad. So pick a lane,
Yep.
weirdos.
And so in the article, the mother goes on to say, if my child can't get access to gender affirming care, well, then something terrible might happen. And there was this post on Twitter that really licks it. And it's by Psych Girl 211. I should have put it in the chat, but just let me read it to you. At a certain age, all human children undergo the same physical and neurobiological changes of puberty in a predetermined stepwise order. So if Mother Nature were consistently getting this crucial development process wrong, an analog of gender dysphoria would have been known in every culture throughout the history of time. And if there had been waves of puberty onset suicide, excuse my language, unaliving, this would be a universally known phenomenon. There would be abundant records and references to it in medicine and in literature. We as humans would have been at our wits' end to discover why puberty was so deadly for our children. And
Right.
yet, that is not the truth. It has never happened. There is no increase in suicidality, and the gender affirming care model. Okay, if kids don't get the right pronouns or be called by their chosen name, you know what I mean? There's no correlation between that treatment and any negative outcomes, especially not suicide. This is the world's biggest lie. It is a social contagion of monumental proportions, and the way that this has been used to destroy children is absolutely
Right.
unforgivable.
Well,
It
and
is
we
unforgivable. Puberty is the natural reset of all of these confused feelings that these kids have been
right.
fed.
And that's the thing. Puberty's the cure for their gender dysphoria.
And
And
yet
we block the cure.
And yet you have trans by proxy mothers saying, my child is going to be forced to go through their natural puberty. Like every other kid in the history of the world, mama, just like that. Nothing bad's going to happen to your kid.
Better. Let them come out the other side. They'll feel better.
And 7 years old, Sheila. That
Baby
makes me
teeth.
insane. Baby
They're
teeth
like,
and believes in Santa. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? Like
this
if you're
little
7,
girl
you believe in
likes
Santa.
this little girl likes sports. They must be trans. And this stuff makes me so mad. Not because I see my own, well, also because I see my own girls in it. But also because I see myself in it.
Yes.
Like if something goes wrong with my vehicle, what do?
Yes.
You saw me fix my own air conditioning one time.
I've actually never seen anything like it. I've never seen anything like it. And yet this is where we're at.
Yeah, like
this is where we're at.
I'm outdoorsy. I'm sporty. I could live off the land.
Yeah.
I like to lift heavy things, just put them down for no reason. You know, I I can shoot. I do all those things. I'm independent, and it's by necessity. I think part of it is because my dad died when I was really young, and I had to do things, and my mom had to work all the time, and then now my husband's gone all the time, and so things aren't going to get fixed if I don't fix them. Plus, I'm cheap. I don't like paying other people to fix things if I think I can do it myself. But I
Mhm.
just think, what if I didn't have a normal family? Like, what if my mom
No,
was one of
really.
these people? What if I was
If
born 30
if you
years
were
later?
if you had been influenced by a gender activist teacher or educator or educrat in your growing up years, there's a reason why we saw this, why we saw kids identifying as something other than their birth sex peak in 2021, because they
Right.
unfurled this during the COVID. These are a bunch of profoundly broken children. We can't forget that these children all grew up in the COVID era. So you
Right.
put your kids, remember when they told us the safest place for your children is online? Well, guess what they found online? They found
Right.
trans influencers who gave them the language, who gave them the playbook, and then said, go tell your families that you're a different gender now.
Right.
They gave them the entire script, and yet we wonder how that happened. It is time to roll the entire thing
I'm
back.
so glad you brought this up because I just saw this morning and I couldn't figure out where I had seen it. But then, lo and behold, my laptop is obviously spying on me. Eric Kaufman on X,
Mm.
trans identification is in free fall among the youth.
Oh, I
It's
saw this
almost like it
stat.
was induced by something other than. It's like the social contagion wave is receding. It's like the satanic panic
Well,
of
because
the
all of a sudden,
early
sure,
80s.
because we talk about it, because we haven't stopped talking about it here at Rebel News. The popularity of the social contagion is now falling off. It's not popular to identify as something other than your gender. There has been a chilling effect on the rapid onset gender dysphoria that we saw through the beginning part of COVID, and it is simply being rewound back into normal range. But if trans kids have always existed, then we would have the stats for that. If trans kids
It
have
wouldn't be
always existed,
falling off like this.
no, it would
It's
not.
never been more accepting. Like, society has never
This is
been more
incredible.
tolerant of this stuff. And it is following the same drop off no matter where you examine it. And
Mhm.
which means that there was some sort of social contagion, which we're coming out the other side. And regardless of the policies and support the government is drafting around it, the wave, the tsunami that came into shore and destroyed everything is now
Yep.
receding back out into the ocean, thank God. But if you
Yeah.
go through this, the number of students not identifying as male or female, just plummeting.
Mhm.
And if
And
you keep going,
this
gender, the data keeps going. Like
this
this is a part of a thread.
This is so interesting, though, looking at the timing of this, because parents became aware that something weird and gender related was happening in schools at the early onset of COVID. And you can see this where a year or two later, after the children were being
Exactly.
influenced by the radical gender activists in Canadian education, that number peaking at the top. This is several years after, because
Yep.
kids typically don't dive
Look
into
at
this with 2
2020. Look
feet.
at the spike at 2020 when the schools shut down.
Just wild. So then you add in all of the online influences, you add in like the peer pressure, because peer groups are very important to young people, like where they start to distance themselves from the influence of their families and start to really really pay attention and put a great deal of value on what their friends are doing and saying. And you will see, like, I mean, it's all in the stats. And thank God, parents
We're, oh God.
got involved, started talking to their kids, started telling their children, you can't be the other gender. That is
Look at
impossible.
this.
And got
Let's
a
go.
little bit of a handle on this. But as long as we have radical gender activists in our schools, there will always be a baseline, because
Oh,
they have a steady stream of new impressionable vulnerable kids to
look
indoctrinate.
at this. So if we go down to the second tweet in that thread,
Mhm.
posts, pardon me, in that thread,
Mm.
it's pretty stable around, like if we follow the bottom line,
Mhm.
10% of the population non-heterosexual. I think that's standard, sort of 1 in 10, maybe bi, maybe lesbian, maybe gay. That's
Okay.
sort of what it is. It spikes all the way up to like 40% plus, which is crazy. And now
Mhm.
we're headed back down south towards that 10% baseline.
These stats were reflected in a non-scientific, but just do you have eyeballs? Can you see this happening in Saskatchewan schools? So where there is a radical gender activist teacher, and they are just
Oh my God.
infested in our education system, where you have a teacher that promotes this craziness in a classroom, 2 years later, you'll have 30 to 40% of that former classroom identifying as something else. So all it takes is one crazy teacher in a school to gender nonconform 30 to 40% of the student population.
Yeah.
That's abuse. That is abuse, is what that is. Those people, okay, should be in jail. They should
Now,
be in jail.
here's where it gets interesting because this is why I think it's directly tied to the pandemic,
Mm,
and the social isolation of kids,
yeah.
because it doesn't change based on political belief. So
Mm,
it doesn't, this should, like, you would think that kids should be like, as this drops, a change in their political values, but the kids
mm,
polled here, their political values sort of straight lined.
mm,
So it's not like, oh, we're becoming more religious or whatever, not the kids that they're asking about this stuff. And it shows that mental illness now is plummeting. And then the change in their gender nonsense happens about a year after their mental illness starts to resolve itself,
isn't
indicating
that
that one is
wild?
directly linked to the other.
Isn't that wild? So you have kids that were forced into isolation, had everything, had every sport taken away, had everything that they found joy from taken away and sent online, and then this is the predictable result. And yet, the left has these experts who will swear up and down on a stack of holy Bibles that if these children aren't affirmed in their mental delusions, that they're going to do something rash. There's absolutely no scientific basis to that argument. And there has never been
Right.
a correlation between uh, children unaliving themselves and not being affirmed in their gender delusions. There's never been a correlation. So all of the arguments in the piece that we showed at the beginning of this, absolutely debunked. Fake
Yep.
news. Absolutely
Yep.
fake news. And
Yeah.
yet they print it. Yet they print
Yeah.
it.